Okay, the algebra, this is going to be the distributive property, a little more review. It should be pretty quick, but I want to start with a warm-up. So I'd like you to pause the video and try these three problems, and then I will go over them. So, first ones are pretty basic simplification problems, so hopefully they went easily for you. 7 times 3w is 21w. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Nothing else you can do, so done. Over here, it was just written funny. This happens kind of more when you're writing the word problem and you're kind of thinking about it in a certain order because there's a story. So sometimes that distributive property will land on the back end just because of the flow of a story. But it's still distributive property. You're still doing a group times a thing. So kind of have to think a little backwards. So 6v squared times 4 is 24v squared. 4 times v is 4v. And 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. And keep in mind these are not like terms because there are 2 v's here and 1 here. Using distributive property to rewrite 7 times 49 and then evaluate. So this is kind of like the way you would do mental math if you were doing this. I'd really want to do 7 times 50 and take away 7 from it because it's easier than doing 7 times 49. So that's exactly what you need to write. 7 times, in my head I'm doing 50 minus 1, which is 49. So I'm kind of breaking apart that number so I can break it up into two easy things to multiply. So instead I'm doing 7 times 50, which I know is 350, and 7 times 1, which is 7. And this subtraction problem is easier than doing that multiplying for my brain. It's more efficient. You might be able to do 7 times 49 in your head, but this is more efficient. So 350 minus 7, so that's 343. Okay, moving along. Vocabulary, we already talked about the distributive property or properties chart. We're just kind of going into more detail and practicing more with it. Simplest form is an expression. This is very specific now that we've kind of learned a lot of things over the last few years. So it's an expression that contains no like terms, no parentheses, and all order of operations have been performed in any way, shape, or form. Okay. An algebraic expression, of course, is anything kind of with numbers, letters, and operations. These should be reviewed here. Coefficient is a numerical factor in a term. So, for example, the term 3x from above, I should say in the term 3x, 3 is the coefficient. That word is hard to remember, but it's super useful in algebra when we start trying to talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Like terms, we've talked many times about that. It's just something with the same variable part. A constant's a numeric term. We're not going to do the like term sort. I think you're good at that at this point. Real world example. So just making sure you have all the parts, the words, the expression, and the answer. It always, of course, sentence form. So I'm just going to do one example so you can kind of see what my expectations are for the homework. Julio walks 5 days a week. He walks at a fast rate for 7 minutes and cools down for 2 minutes. Use the distributive property, so they're giving you specific directions. Use the distributive property to write and evaluate an expression that determines the number of minutes Julio walks. Okay, so I know that he walks for 5 days, and then I know what he does each day. So each of 5 days, so I don't even need to say he. So each of 5 days he's, I'm just going to kind of abbreviate. Fast for 7 minutes. Oops. And cool down for 2 minutes. Okay, that's my verbal model. And my expression then is I know that I have to do this 7 minutes and 2 minutes every single day. So it's really just 5 times 7 plus 2. So I've made an expression that shows distributive property. There doesn't always have to be a variable in it. I can do distributive property or order of operations to solve this. And it doesn't matter to me how you solve it as long as you've practiced writing the expression using distributive property. And so the answer, of course, is 5 times 9, which is 45. So my answer is Julio walks, 45 minutes in a week, in 5 days, not a week. 45 minutes in 5 days. Okay, so I expect to see these distributive property expressions. And you can do the expression and then try to translate it to words. Or you can do the words to the expression, whatever makes sense for you. As long as you're doing both, so your brain's kind of giving it a chance to focus on 2 areas. I believe that's the end. Oh, nope, I have one more. So this is just review. There's just more complex translation problems. So use the expression twice the difference of 3x and y increased by 5 times the sum of x and 2y to write an algebraic expression. Simplify and justify. So you got a lot of things going on here. First of all, it's just a mouthful to read the math. And second of all, you have 3 things to do. And of course, you just need to do one at a time. And so now I need to take some time and analyze what all those words mean and kind of where I'm going to see things. So twice the difference of, so I'm looking for those parentheses. So what difference of what? 3x and y increased 3x and y. Okay. So 3x and y, and then that's increased by 5 times the sum of x and 2y. Oh, there's 2 of those. So now I see my different parentheses, and I can start trying to figure this out. So twice the difference, so 2 times the subtraction problem, which is 3x minus y, and that's increased by 5 times the sum of x and 2y. Alright, I've got my algebraic expression. I just need to simplify and justify. So I'm going to kind of I like to do them at the same time, but you certainly can do them separate. The first thing here was given, kind of, from the words. And now I'm going to distribute. So that's my next step. Using the distributive property. So what does that look like? That's 6x minus 2y, and then do this one, plus 5x plus 10y. All right, and now I'm going to combine like terms. So which property is that? Combining like terms is really rearranging, so that is the commutative property. So 6x plus 5x is 11x. Negative 2y and 10y is positive 8y. And from there I'm done because there's no more like terms. So I've simplified and justified. Alright, so now you can go to your homework. Careful to be using the distributive property at all times. And certainly try the challenge problems. And remember, I'm picking all the problems that are the hardest in that because you are supposed to be mastering these topics at this point. So if you have a question, talk to your neighbor and consult the answer key. Make sure you don't get frustrated because I'm trying to challenge you.